All right, let's dive in. We're going to pull back the curtain on one of the great investing legends, Joel Greenblatt, and a strategy he developed that's so simple, yet so powerful, he called it the magic formula.
This is the question that's at the heart of all value investing. It's the one Greenblatt spent his entire career obsessed with. The idea is so simple, right? Just buy a great business, but only buy it when it's on sale. Sounds easy, but finding a way to do that over and over again, that's the real challenge.
And to get to the bottom of it, we're going to do something really cool. We're basically sitting in on one of Greenblatt's legendary investing classes at Columbia Business School. We've got his lecture notes as our guide, so this isn't just some dry theory. We're going to see these ideas in action, in a real classroom.
So our first stop is seeing how this all plays out with a student presentation. This is where theory gets thrown out the window, students have to get up there, pitch a stock, and then they have to defend it against the master himself.
Okay, so the company on the chopping block is Timberland, the boot company. And if you look at the stock chart here from around 2005, you can see the price has been all over the place. So the students step up and they make their case for why it's a buy. And they come out strong. They argue that all the negativity around the company is just temporary. A few product hiccups, bad sentiment, that kind of thing. They've run their models and they're calling for a 25% return right now, maybe even 50% in a couple of years.
Pretty confident pitch.
And boom, Greenblatt immediately pounces. But notice, he doesn't say you're wrong. He has some much more powerful question. How do you justify that? This is his whole method. He just pokes and prods at their assumptions until they can defend every single number. For him, the justification is everything.
So how do they justify it? Well, they start throwing out metrics. And one of the first is EV to EBIT. Now you can think of this as kind of like a souped-up PE ratio. It looks at the company's total price tag, including its debt, and compares it to its operating earnings. A low number here suggests the stock might be on sale. This is the cheap part of the equation.
But, cheap isn't enough for Greenblatt. He's also obsessed with quality. And for that, he looks at return on invested capital, or ROIC. This number is huge. It basically tells you how good a company is at turning money into more money. A high ROIC means you've got a fantastic, efficient business. This is the good part of the equation.
Now, watching these students get absolutely grilled is fascinating, but it also shows you the problem. Doing this kind of deep dive analysis on every single company is it's really, really hard. And that's exactly what pushed Greenblatt to create a more systematic way to do this. And it all comes back to this one simple idea. He realized that his whole tough, Socratic method in class really just boiled down to these two things: finding a good company and finding a cheap stock. The trick was figuring out if you could screen for both at the same time.
And this is what he came up with, the magic formula. And it's actually pretty brilliant in its simplicity. You take thousands of stocks and you rank all of them on how good they are using that return on capital metric. Then you do it again, but this time you rank them all on how cheap they are using earnings yield. And then you just combine the two ranks. The companies with the best combined score are the ones you look at. Simple as that.
So, let's just make this crystal clear. You're looking for that perfect overlap. On one hand, you want a business that's just a fantastic cash-generating machine. On the other, you want a stock that the market, for whatever reason, just doesn't appreciate right now. The formula is just a tool to systematically find the stocks that check both of these boxes.
Okay, so this sounds incredible, right? A simple formula that finds great companies on sale. So why isn't everybody doing this and getting ridiculously rich? Well, that question leads us to what is, without a doubt, the most important lesson of all.
First, let's look at the results. In a study that Greenblatt ran from 1988 to 2004, the formula generated an average annual return of 24.4%. That is an absolutely staggering number. It completely demolishes the market averages. But that number hides a very, very difficult truth. And here's the catch. It doesn't work all the time. There are long, painful stretches where this formula actually underperforms the market. As Greenblatt puts it, bad stuff happens. And when your chosen strategy just isn't working, that pressure to give up on it is just immense.
And let's be really specific here. We're not talking about a bad month or a bad quarter. The data shows this formula can and will lag the market for 2 or even 3 full years in a row. Just think about that. Imagine sticking with something while everyone else is making money and you're not, for 3 straight years. It's psychologically brutal. And this is it. This is the secret. The real magic isn't in the spreadsheet or the ratios.
The secret ingredient is having the discipline, the emotional toughness to actually follow the formula when it's not working.
I love how blunt Greenblatt is about this. This formula is going to lead you to companies that are unpopular, the news will be terrible, the experts will be pessimistic, your friends will think you're insane, you're buying what the market is screaming stinks. And that is an incredibly hard thing to do.
The key, the only way to get through it, is to have unshakable faith in the long-term logic. You have to understand why buying good companies at cheap prices works over decades, and then trust that logic when the market is telling you you're a fool. You just have to tune out the noise and stick with the process, even if it feels wrong for years at a time.
And this, right here, is what he calls the whole ball of wax. The number crunching, the analysis, that's the easy stuff. The hard part is the psychological battle. It's living with your decisions and sticking to your guns when everyone and everything is telling you to sell. That, he says, is the whole game.
So as we wrap this up, the big question isn't whether the magic formula works. The data is pretty clear on that. No, the real question is about us. It's about our temperament, not our IQ. Because knowing the path is one thing, but having the discipline to stay on it when it gets rough, that's something else entirely.